This is Bolero by Ravel, by Ravel. It's Bolero by Ravel. I think it's sounding really swell. And if you disagree, you go to hell. Well, anyway, words to that effect. Yes, we're talking about Bolero. Now, I've already made a video about Bolero. Oh, by the way, I'm Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. There, we did that. Yeah, I did a video called How It's Done, all about Bolero, which is just, I love Bolero. I mean, who doesn't love Bolero? Well, some people, I guess, don't. But we're not really talking, I mean, we don't see recordings of Bolero all that often. There was a nice one with Robert Trevino, with the Basque Symphony Orchestra at Ondine recently. That was like the most recent good one. There have not been as many as there used to be. I mean, it was all over the place. It was in the movie 10. Everyone used to talk about it, but it occurs to me now that most conductors no longer care about Ravel, and they certainly don't care about Bolero, because if you want endless repetition, I mean, and mind-numbing repetition going on for ages and ages, you can play Bruckner and get so much more attention. Anyway, what can I tell you? There seem to be very few conductors who are specializing in French repertoire these days, and it's such a pity. Damn it, it's a shame. They're all doing just heavy German symphonies and the same 5 things over and over again, and then some modern thing written by somebody they're having sex with. I just don't get what's going on in our modern musical life. I really don't. That's what makes me a cranky old fart. But I'm here to tell you what the best recordings of Bolero are. That's the point. What a fun piece it is to play. It's one of the first pieces I ever played in a symphony orchestra. I was the percussion, all of it, except for the snare drums, because Bolero requires 2 snare drummers. They at one point they double, and they're all doing this thing. Well, yeah, I mean, I was doing it. There we go. I mean, I just listened to like 500 of them, so I'm doing this like uncontrollably now. It's like a twitch. I have to get it to stop. But after that, you've got a cymbals, bass drum cymbals, and tam-tam. And I was the only one left. So I got to play all 3. Da-da-da, boom, ba-da-da, crash, da-da-da, psh, with the tam-tam. Oh, it's fun. It's so much fun, except at the very end, believe it or not, Bolero ends with a tam-tam whack, a very short one. So you need to have an instrument that speaks very quickly, because some tam-tams are kind of bulky. You hit them and then you don't hear it go off until like 5 minutes later, but you don't want that. The French tam-tams in those days were more like suspended cymbals. They were splashy, and you want one that has a quick splash, because it ends with crash, like that. And you've got to be able to stop it. And of course, playing bass drum cymbals and tam-tam all at once, I couldn't do that because I was lacking a few extra appendages. So the way to do it was, you hit the cymbals, and you're going to end with a crack on the bass drum and the tam-tam, and you hit the tam-tam just before the end. Just a little bit in advance, because it does take a little time to swell out, so you get just that glint of metal at the very end. Most performances you hear nothing. You don't hear it at all, but some you do. And, we may talk about a couple of those at some point. But anyway, here's the bottom line. There are hundreds and hundreds of recordings of Bolero, and I'm going to tell you what the best ones are. And I mean, these are the best ones. I mean, there are others that are very good, but these really are the best. We have 3 notable ones that I will not talk about at the moment, because they lack something that I listen for very carefully. And those are, first of all, Paul Paret, who's the quickest, I think, of all the Boleros. He gets through it in like 12 or 13 minutes. It should take, Ravel's first recording took about like 17 minutes. And that's sort of where you wind up with the metronome marking. But very few performances are that slow. Most are around the late 14s to 15 and a bit. That's about the Bolero average, the Bolerage, if you want to call it that. And that's what you kind of expect them to do. And I'm happy with that. That works perfectly well. But you need to have, aside from that, so Paret is the quickest. Celibidache is the slowest. It takes about 2 weeks. It's unbelievably slow. And he has a very, very an unspeaking tam-tam at the end. If you watch his video, you can see they like whack the crap out of it and nothing happens. And it felt like this. That they should have used a different instrument. They really should have. So Cello Pataki is way out there on the long side. Not one of the great boleros. It's just the slowest. And then there's a really great one that's almost exactly that 17-minute timing. There's another Ravel performance, by the way. It's like 14 and a bit minutes, so he could be variable too. But 17 was like, yeah. And that is Skrovichevsky with Minneapolis Symphony, which became the Minnesota Orchestra, which is really marvelous until you get to the very end, where you don't hear the percussion at all. I mean, they're there. I mean, you get a sense that there's something back there, but I don't know why he did that. Anyway, but it's otherwise, it's quite splendid. So one of the things I listen for in boleros is the ending, a great ending. And in keeping with the great ending theory, the last time you hear the big tune, the main tune, this is Bolero by Ravel, that tune, you want to hear the piccolo trumpet on top. You want to hear that bright neon screaming gleam of brass. And a lot of performances these days smudge everything together. They just mush it all together. You don't want it mushed. It has to be like, it's like a yellow highlighter, on top of it. And I want to hear that. I want to hear it brilliantly and piercing. And then finally, one of the things I really want to hear is that wonderful, wonderful repetition. I wouldn't call it a variation, but it's a variant because it's different orchestration where you have the horn and the piccolo and the celesta. I was the celesta player in that performance, in addition to percussion. And the piccolos are in a different key, and it sounds like an organ stop. It's the most wonderful sound you've ever heard in your life. How Ravel came up with that combination, God only knows. It's sheer genius. And I talk about it in the video that I made on how it's done about Bolero. And I want to hear that single sound. I do not want to hear a horn, a piccolo, and a celesta separately. I want to hear a unified, totally unearthly timbre. That's part of the wonders of Bolero. So, those are some of the things I listen for. And then, of course, you want to hear fabulous first desk players, all of them, and a conductor who really is just a human metronome. He's just doing this for the whole thing, but he's got to build the crescendo, and he's got to layer the timbres as they start to accumulate. And it's really, I remember very vividly, I saw a performance of Bolero with the Montreal Symphony in Dutoit, and Charles Dutoit was conducting, and my then roommate, who knew nothing whatsoever about classical music, but who was incredibly musical. He had just a really great ear, and I loved going to concerts with him because he just called it like he heard it. He had no attitude. He just watched what was happening. He said, And at the end, when the key changed, Dutoit jumps up and flings his arms out, and he just looks at me and says, they're not looking at him at all. There's no difference. There wasn't. You want to hear something happen. And it was all showmanship, but there was no audible result of the showmanship. And so, you want to hear performances that have some glitz and glamour, and they have to be a little sexy. I'm not so worried about like the glissandos in the trombones or clarinets or things like that. You can do the portamenti. I mean, you can do it. You can do it if you want, But the solo playing has to be fabulous. And so here are a dozen really first-rate boleri. I guess is the plural, right? Bolero, I don't know, boleros. Okay, here we go. So let's get started, shall we? On Telarc, the Cincinnati Symphony with Jesus Lopez Cobos. Beautiful performance. He was such a fine, elegant conductor. This is 15 minutes and 25 seconds. You have to give the timings where I can. Anyway, I will. And it's wonderfully recorded. I mean, Telarc, this is why you got this originally, because of the sonics. It's a beautiful, elegant, shapely, perfectly proportioned performance that builds and builds till it does its thing. So that's great. And that's number one. Number two, I love this one. Claudio Abbado with the London Symphony Orchestra. Now, this one is a riot. It's a little on the quick side, 14 minutes and 20 seconds, and a riot literally, because at the end he has the orchestra shout at the end. It's going da-da, da-da. They're all going, hey, 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 It's a nice touch. It's a nice touch. It's fun. I mean, Abbado was never a conductor I associated with fun, but this Bolero is fun, and it's wonderfully played and smashingly recorded as well. So that's a very, very fine one, and it's part of his complete Ravel orchestral music series with the LSO, which is one of the best. It's very, very good. Another superb Bolero was this one with Haitink and the Concertgebouw. The Concertgebouw first chair wind players. I mean, come on. Who's going to do it better? The answer, nobody. It's amazing. And in those days, they had wonderful sounding trombones and really cool individualized percussion. This is 14 minutes and 50 seconds. It's just tremendous. It's absolutely marvelous. And, Haitink makes a very good human metronome. Because some would argue that's what he was, but he wasn't doing Bolero. Just kidding. All right, now we got some Frenchies. Some of the classic Frenchies. Here's one that a lot of people will overlook. Manuel Rosenthal, the guy who wrote Gaieté Parisienne and other fun things like that. He was a wonderful conductor of French music. He lived to be like 150. He knew Ravel. I mean, he's really in there, an authentic Ravel guy. This is with, it's like some crazy, cranky French. The orchestra of the French Paris Opera Orchestra, which was like the best orchestra in France. This was recorded in the 50s. It's in stereo. The sound, of course, is dated a little bit. And the sound of French orchestras is not like anybody else. It's very lean. You don't have that big, powerhouse sound. It's a wiry sound. But you've got amazing solo winds who sound all kind of, nasal. And, they sound like French people playing wind instruments. It's just lovely. Absolutely lovely. And so this is Manuel Rosenthal. I don't know what label it's on. Ades right now, but I don't even know if it's still available. I don't care. I'm just telling you what the best ones are. After that, of course, Jean Martinon with the Orchestre de Paris, because it's Jean Martinon. Yes, you don't hear all the percussion at the end. It's not as clear as it could be, but he's such a fine conductor. 14 minutes and 55 seconds. See where this is going? I mean, we're all in that sort of average ballpark for the most part. And he builds it just effortlessly. And his whole Ravel cycle is a classic. And so I am happy to recommend it as part of his general Ravel cycle. Martinon is just wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. And then, of course, just as wonderful, Clets. Yes, Clets. This is the one. This is 15 minutes and 26 seconds with the Orchestre de Paris. Not the Orchestre de Paris. What am I talking about? The Paris Conservatory, the Orchestre de la Société des Concerts du Conservatoire de Paris, if you want to be technical. And this is a classic Ravel set. It was one of the last things that they did with Clets, and it's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And you have those great soloists who were all teachers at the Paris Conservatory, or most of them were. And so you get this authentic, really authentic French sound, and it's divine, absolutely wonderful. And you do hear that splashy tam-tam at the end. No, it wasn't good for much else, actually. But yes, that worked really well. Now, here's one where you get authentic French timbres, only more so. This is the Czech Philharmonic on Supraphon with Serge Baudo. Now, Serge Baudo was a fantastic conductor in French music, and he made a bunch of superb records for Supraphon. They really ought to do a Baudo box because he has all the Honegger symphonies. Remember that stuff? And Joan of Arc at the Stake. I think he did that too, and just some other things as well. He was really, really good in this music. And this is one of the great boleros. You've got the wind soloist of the Czech Phil. You've got a nice splashy tam-tam at the end, and you've got 16 minutes and 55 seconds. This is Ravel's tempo, almost to the second. It's just tremendous. Most people will not have heard that. This is a real sleeper of a recording, and so I feel obligated to tell you about it. So it's Baudo. Then we've got Pierre Boulez, another human metronome who is feeling particularly metronomic. This is his Berlin Ravel series, which is quite simply one of the most gorgeously played Ravel series that you've ever heard in your life. It's just amazingly beautiful playing throughout, and they really nail Bolero. It's I'm so proud of them for really, really letting go to the extent that you can when you're being completely metronomic and building just a huge, powerful crescendo. It's absolutely first rate. I mean, Boulez's earlier one was also excellent, but this one is really on fire. It's phenomenal, and it's a wonderful disc because you have one of the most gorgeous Mother Gooses you'll ever hear, and Embarque sur l'Océan, and Alborada del Gracioso, the Rhapsody Espagnole. Whew. Makes me sweat just thinking about it. First class stuff. Boulez never made a better record than this Ravel cycle. Now, if you want a bolero that is going to absolutely pulverize you, the most powerful, the loudest, the most amazing crescendo and insane climax at the end, believe it or not, it's this one. Seiji Azawa with the Boston Symphony, who also did a superb, here it is, 3-disc, Ravel orchestral music cycle. It was better than the Charles Munch Ravel recordings. I mean, except maybe Daphnis and Chloe, which was a Munch specialty. But, you know, people don't want to admit it. But boy, these are gorgeous, gorgeous performances and powerful, really huge dynamic range. And this bolero with the 2 snare drums blasting out of each speaker. And oh my God, it's insane. With, again, stunning solo playing. First rate, absolutely first rate. So that's a good one. That's 10 of them so far, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, 9. Number 10. Oh, yeah. This is another one that you probably aren't going to think about, but which is first class. Michael Tilson Thomas with the London Symphony Orchestra on Sony. He was a wonderful French music composer. I mean, and conductor. His Debussy was always first class, always. And his Ravel was not far behind. This bolero is, 15 minutes and 23 seconds. You get the complete Mother Goose ballet, which is also wonderful, Rhapsody Espagnole, and the fanfare from L'Eventail de Jaune. But wow, and the pièce en forme de habanera, which became a part of the Rhapsody Espagnole. But this bolero is really shaped intelligently. It builds in a way that's not quite the same as any other bolero you've ever heard. I mean, it has a point of view. There's something about it that's really personal and special and sexy. It's very sexy. It's just delicious. It's like, you know, could have been used in the movie 10 for the sex scene. You know, it's wonderful. Wonderful. Then, of course, Bernstein. Bernstein with the Orchestre Nationale de Paris. Isn't that what it was? I believe it was. Orchestre Nationale de France. Pardon me. Part of it is New York Philharmonic stuff on here, the Rhapsody Espagnole and Daphnis and Chloe's Second Suite. But the first part, Boléro, La Valse, and Alborada del Gracioso. Wow, 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 wow. I mean, this is one of the best boleros you'll ever hear. And the climax, it's a climax. It's orgasmic, if that's what it's supposed to be. I don't pretend to know. But wow, it's something special. Let me tell you how long this one is. 15 minutes and 38 seconds. It's right on the money, I think. And holy cow, it's just thrilling. It's absolutely thrilling. Brilliant, wonderful, very well recorded too. Rich with a fabulous bass at the bottom when the bass drum goes whomp, da-da-da, crash, da-da-da, pow. Oh my goodness, it's just terrific. However, there is one recording, and it's a real sleeper that some of you may not know or may not have thought about, that is just amazing. It really just sets the standard for boleros. I'm stunned by how great it is. Riccardo Muti in Philadelphia. Believe it or not. Yes, and he didn't do that much Ravel. I mean, you know, I'm surprised. He wasn't known for it. This has the Daphnis Second Suite and Alborada del Gracioso. He also did an amazing Rhapsody Espagnole. And this was from the period when he had just taken over Philadelphia. That thrilling, exciting period where amazing things happened. You had that Firebird Suite and the Rite of Spring and pictures at an exhibition and just some great, the Liszt Faust Symphony, just fantastic stuff. They were going like gangbusters. And this Ravel disc really was one of those. And nobody paid much attention to it. But this bolero, This Bolero, closing up here, this one, which is probably impossible to find now. I looked on iTunes to see if it existed. It's around, it was recoupled various ways with other things, like the 1812 Overture and whatnot. But it's 17 minutes and 16 seconds. It is one of the slowest ones out there. It is Ravel's tempo, and wow, do they play! You've got some of the greatest soloists in the universe, a powerhouse of an orchestra at the climax. They just explode at the end. It's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. I was amazed. I listened to it. I didn't even pay much attention to it when it came out. Me. And I'm a Bolero fan. I'm a Bolerist. And it just shocked me to death. I played it again recently, and it's been my reference ever since, because there isn't anything that has that hypnotic power with a perfectly judged crescendo and stunning solo playing, and it's really a knockout. It's what the piece ought to be. I trust me on this one. Find it, listen to it if you can. I don't know if you can stream it. I just don't know who has it. One of you will tell me, I'm sure. But wow, this is a Bolero that you must hear. It will absolutely redefine the way you think about Bolero. So there you have it, my friends, a dozen really first-class Boleros. And trust me, they are the result of a hell of a lot of Bolero listening and this sort of going through my head. Oh my God. I dream this. Whatever. Anyway, you get the picture. So keep on listening, friends. Enjoy your Boleros. Let's have some fun again. We can't just listen to Bruckner. There's got to be other stuff out there, the fun stuff, and just have a great time with it. It's such a ball buster of a piece. It's marvelous. Yes. Take care.